right there. Yeah. And I got a watch and the start time. Didn't hear that at all. You're good. Ah, heard and not seen. Just like a good warrior. No, that's a bad one. No, heard and not. No. You know what? We're just gonna scratch that.
No, now I want to hear it a little bit more. What were you gonna say?
What?
I don't know.
Never mind. You ready?
Yeah.
Ready, Freddy? 3. Howdy, and welcome to Voyagers Path Season 2, Episode 2. Today I have Kevin Wynn with me, and I am your host, Tony Drake. The good old Ahmed is away with school things. I did not press as to what school stuff, but he's got school. Good boy. So it's just going to be us two. So what we're talking about today is what, if you remember from the last episode, direction of life. To give a little recap, you have 2 major decisions in your life. One of which being who you spend your time with, your relationships in your life. The next one will be the direction of your life, and you are accountable for these 2 decisions. And we talked about accountability before, where you are in charge of your relationship, of your, or we can just say in charge of your life. That's the easiest way to say it. So just to real quickly touch on relationships. If you want to learn more, of course, go back to the last episode. But relationships will influence your life. And your relationships, if you are a good apple or seed and you do good things and you do it well, and you got good grades and you're focused or blah, 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 but then you go over to a friend's house and they are, I don't know, partying hard, and then the cops get called for some reason, and then you are found at the scene, and there's Molly, there's underage drinking, and there's all kinds of stuff happening that you weren't even aware of, maybe. Too bad you were caught up in that situation, because that's who you spent your time with, and now you are in a messy situation. So that is just the brief is be careful. Make sure to identify your relationships in your life, because they will influence, and you allow that influence because of associating with them. I guess that's the best way to say that.
Yeah. Sounds right.
Yes. All right. So direction, the meat of today, the potatoes, and I forgot the rest of the quote. So why are we talking about direction? I believe I prefaced last time. These next few episodes are going to be about the types of relationships, and the following are friendships, romantic, family, co-workers, and such. The reason why we are putting direction in now and introducing that idea is because of what direction is. And to break that down, direction is a label. Direction is not a single thing. You will have your belief system, your morals, your principles, your desires, your goals, which is what we're talking about today, your influences, all those come into and create your direction in life. The reason why we are talking about initial goal setting here today is because your relationships do coincide with how you go about the direction of your life and the goals of your life. Some people will hinder your voyage on this Voyager's path. Some people will help you on this voyage, and the main thing you want to be aware of is who is helping and who's not helping. I know we've both, Kevin and I, have had relationships that we've engulfed ourselves in, and those relationships became everything that we were about. We lost ourselves in somebody because we didn't know who we were at the time, and then coming out of those relationships, we can look back and we're like, yeah, that kind of...
We let them control us, basically.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's a way. That is definitely control, because we didn't have our own sense of control. So, initial goals. I'm not here to one goal fits all. It's not. It's not going to be something that I can tell you straight up. It is. It is more something that you have to come up with yourself. Um, I, I am keeping in mind that one day millions come to be soon. Millions of people will be watching my pretty face and listening to my lovely voice. And same thing with Kevin and Ahmed. So speaking about how we present this content, we have to keep in mind that it's going to influence people from vastly different walks of life, where someone might be well off and they're just looking for motivation, or they're looking for sturdy principles to develop, or you have someone who is starting over. They've come from a tough place and now they're trying to take a step in the right direction. So keeping in mind, I cannot just sit down and blabber for an hour about what the goal should be for your life. It's going to be something you can determine. What we're going to talk about here, the importance of goal setting, the aspects to consider when making a goal, and the benefits and the disadvantages of not having a goal and having a goal. So, without further ado, Kevin, I wanted to first say, whenever you met me, well, I guess not met. Met would be 8th grade. Whenever we reconnected, would you say you had an idea of where you're heading in life and how you're getting there?
I would say once we started rekindling our friendship, it was more of a. At the beginning, it was more okay. Maybe I can be friends with Tony. Maybe I can get to know him a little bit more. It wasn't more. It wasn't as of like I was setting a goal. It's like we didn't know what we were doing. We were just being friends. But sooner down the line, we started stuff. We started working together. We started doing the podcast. We started getting knowing each other a little bit better. Lost my train of thought.
You didn't have a goal, so
I did not have a goal.
You did not have a
Yeah.
goal.
I was a lost. I was a lost child.
You were a
basically.
lost. What was that? Lost boy? Lost
boy.
Lost. Is that a
By Ruth, I think.
beyond me? The reason why I bring that up with Voyager's Path, I stated this in the beginning, the first episode. My dad, Calvin, gave me a map and a compass. The map is where you're going, and the compass is how you get there. And I would say now, from what I've seen, you have a better idea of where you're going and how you're getting there. I mean, we were talking in the car, you have a job opportunity, you're working for, I forget the name of the company, but it's with your uncle, and it's a good job, it's a steady job, as well as inspiring to make a airsoft team with my dad's company, and then this podcast, it is, what is the word? Almost a 180. I was seeing of where you were and where you're headed, and where we're both at now, and the importance of that. The reason why I'm bringing that up, a lot of people don't have a map and compass. I mean, I didn't have one. I don't want to say I was poorly raised, and not everyone raises their kids a certain way, but my parents were not involved in my life. It's mainly whenever I moved in with my biological father in 8th grade. There was little to no involvement, didn't care what I was doing, let me go do whatever I wanted, and if ever he did ask, it was like, oh yeah, I'm doing theater stuff for a few hours, or I'm over rehearsing, and he didn't know there's no production going on. I was just going and screwing around doing my own thing. But the involvement of parents, a lot of parents can admit that they sacrifice a lot for the kids, and I respect those who do, and I feel that is what's expected. You have to sacrifice for your kids. You have to sacrifice now, so in the future, you'll be better off, I could say. But then you also have to keep in mind, you have some parents who, just like my own father, took the leash off and let me run wild and do my own thing and didn't care what I was doing. Dropped me off on the side of the road and just like, boo, go do your own thing. And through that, I wasn't listened to. I was not checked up on. I did not have anyone to help stabilize my foundation, so I went and did my own thing. And that was, like I said in the first podcast, having sex, doing drugs, and just doing things that almost is natural, I would say. And that's natural, being like primal, which is a strong word as I say that now. But thinking, as a kid, what do you want to go do? You just want to go do what's fun, and you want to go chase tail. You want to go hang out with the guys, the boys, and just go screw around, right? I mean, that's. Can you relate? I don't really know if you can relate to that.
Nowadays, it's more of a normal thing, I would say, which it shouldn't be a normal thing. No, that's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
So no,
It's
you
just
can't.
no.
Can you? That was the main question. Can you relate or not?
I would say I can relate, just because it's just as growing up, a kid would always want to have fun, always want to do something. Not like whenever they're told to do something, it's always, do I want to do this? So
Okay. So you, as yourself, would not say that you were the one who was out causing trouble or doing your own thing. You were kind of in a more disciplined household.
I would say I was running around trying to have fun. Mom would always try to be strict, but I would say just as a kid, just not listening to her and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, besides all that, the main point we're trying to hit home is that people don't have a map and compass. And we can talk a while about how people are brought up and how circumstances influence your life, but the main thing we're talking about here is accountability and how you yourself are accountable for whatever has happened, whatever might have put you in a certain situation. You can say it was your parents raising you poorly, or you can say it was because you were dealt a bad hand. But besides all that, what you need to focus on now is that you can go out and find a means to make a compass and a map. You can sketch out a map. You can go construct your compass. You can do whatever verbiage you want to use. You can find a way in life. And what I've noticed are people become complacent, and I'm going to touch on that a little later. But with their schooling, with their friends, with Hollywood, their influences, with social media, who they follow, who they listen to, everything that they feed their mind, it causes this complacency, and you become, lack of a better term, part of a herd, and you're not focused on what you want to do because you're being fed these goals that other people have. That's why a lot of people, a study in 2019 showed that people going to college, 40% are not using their degree, and 30-something% couldn't find a job in their field with their degree. And I do think that is part of a bigger scheme. And I'm not talking about like big, rich, fat people sitting around a table and trying to control the world with their strings. But I do think that because of this complacency, people live a certain way and they think a certain way, and that causes their children and their friends and their family to also think that easy way, that complacent way. And so you get caught up in that, and it's hard to escape, especially when everyone around you is excuse me, burped. That's why everyone around you, if they're all on this level of complacency and cruising, that term I used before, where you're just kind of cruising through life, it's hard to escape it, because anywhere you look, no one's going to help you. Everyone's going to think you're crazy because you're trying to take control of your life, and everyone has given control away. Everyone has allowed life to dictate themselves, and which is why goals are important. Why setting goals are important, because that will dictate where you're going. And once you become complacent, the world will dictate where you're going. And that's never fun. Well, can be fun, depending on who you are. But that's besides the point. We'll get into that way maybe one day. I wanted to share a story. I wanted to hopefully explain this through a story of someone that Kevin and I know. And hopefully it'll allow some insight. I am going to share this story, and it's from my point of view. It's from where, starting in 8th grade and up until now, seeing how this person has changed and what has happened in their life because of this lack of goals. So I met this fellow in 8th grade, and he was what I would call an outstanding guy. I mean, he was open, he was honest and vulnerable. Even with my cynical mindset at the time, I respected him, and I appreciated him because he was never one to make lies. He was a Boy Scout, quite literally, and he had a nice quote that I like. Some way he lived his life by. He wouldn't give people anything for them to gossip about. He wouldn't give them a reason to be dramatic around him. He wouldn't give them drama because he just wasn't that guy. And I'm sure he had goals in high school. Everyone has goals. You will have goals as you're progressing through life. And like I said before, sometimes these goals are fed to you by society, through your parents, through your teachers and whatnot, and you just kind of go with the flow. But regardless, he had his goals. He was a varsity swimmer. He was very interested in agricultural studies, and I forget the class, but you get involved with animals and plants and whatnot, because he wanted to have a ranch. I ended up having to leave Texas, as I already stated before, and at that time our relationship we weren't best friends, but we were definitely open and honest, and I always enjoyed my time around him the most, I would say. And as I was leaving, he was the last person I said goodbye to. I stole my grandmother's car and drove around Richardson and Wiley and saying goodbye to people that I knew I wouldn't get the chance to say goodbye to, and he was the last one I said bye to, and that was one of the hardest drives home. I was heading back home and I was in tears, and I was not sure if I'd ever see him again. And I wanted to, because he was someone I looked up to. But when I got back to Texas and we reconnected, I found out his parents were divorced. He's living with his mom, and as a Boy Scout, he swore off drugs and alcohol. But as I came back, he was drinking and he was smoking and he was getting caught up in all that. And he was still a senior in high school, and he wasn't caring about high school like he used to. He wasn't too committed with anything. He just kind of was at high school. He just tried to pass it, like a lot of kids can say they do. As we began to rekindle, he would go from job to job, and it wasn't a stable foundation. And I ended up trying to open up to him, trying to show him what I've learned and show him how my life has changed. And I was telling him all these great things that have happened, and I'm trying to pick out these things in his life that don't serve him, and he noticed that, and he was taking those things that don't serve him and casting them away, and he was chasing dreams and aspirations that I might not have known he had. He may have had them for a long time, but at the time I must have been blind to them back in high school. But I could see he was happy. Then he ended up moving in with some friends of his, and they do what young guys do. They would drink, they would smoke, they would peruse Tinder and chase tail and have a fun old jolly old time, which nothing terrible about that, but he was definitely heading in a different direction than where I thought he was going. And somewhere along the line, he got into a relationship, which was, I don't know, third or fourth serious one, and he didn't know what to do. He was at a point where he was confused, and I ended up, through help of my dad, him and I ended up helping this young man, helping him to understand the ins and outs of relationships, why you should have them, why you shouldn't have them, kind of introducing the dartboard idea. And him and my dad began to cultivate this own relationship that was independent of my own, and they were at this very comfortable level. And I could see that any time he was in our home or he was around me or my dad, he was this he was full of hope, you could say. He had an idea of what he was wanting to do, and he admitted to me that he didn't want to be normal anymore. He didn't want to be just like everybody else. He didn't want to follow this herd. And one day I approached him and said, "Hey, I'm going to go on this journey, and I want you by my side." And he accepted, and he thought it was a great idea. And as we progressed and our relationship got even deeper, because it required a deeper level of trust and respect that we both allowed, he got involved in other relationships, and he got more involved in what the guys at his house were doing. And it was a day and night. He would come hang out with us, me and my dad, and then he would go back home to this place that was not, how do you say, constructive. There was just people who didn't know what they wanted to do. They were just kind of chilling out, and they were smoking and they were drinking, like I had said before. And no matter how many times he would say he wanted to change and become better and be different, he would go back home and he would lose all of that. And whenever we were about to take this momentous leap, the part in our journey came to where we had to step up. And to get to the next level, we had to take this huge leap forward. And there was no coming back after that. And as we were drawing near, I was advised to be prepared to move on without him. So I ended up mentally preparing and trying to see why or what that was like. And come the day of that leap of faith, you could call it, he admitted that he wasn't ready. His relationship at the time, which is the same relationship he's in now and that he's caught up in, had a lot of influence on his decision. And he was being guided and taught, or guided and told to venture on this other path and go this other way, because the one you're on now is straining. The one you're on now, it is causing you mental distress. And that's what he had said. He said that he's taking on too much. And I don't mean to be harsh in any mean, but I think there's a fine line between laziness and not being capable. He was very capable. He's a very capable young man. Has a lot of potential, and he could. I knew he could, because he's done it before. However, he decided to go down that easy path, that path of least resistance. And our voyage there, our time together, our relationship kind of slowed down. As I said in the last episode, there are times where you need to put space between you and someone else, and I knew, because of his behavior and his patterns, that our time together was coming to an end. And I pushed him down a few rings and spent less time with him and focused less on him, and I wasn't catching up with him. But the few times that we talk now, the few times that we get together, which has been once in these past few months, he is in between jobs, doing something he's not a fan of. He's moving back in with his dad, who he admitted he finds aggravating and irritating and even a little intimidating. He is on this path that has no sense of direction because his girlfriend, his family, his friends, the media, Hollywood movies, whatever influence that he has on his, whatever is influencing his life is telling him of a certain direction to go on. And like I said before, he no longer was dictating where he was going. And I do honestly think, just like how a siren will lure a sailor into the sea where he can never be found again, there is this part of life that is very dangerous. There's a part of life that is very, very hard to navigate through alone, when you also have no goals and no discipline, no willpower. And he was kind of given these goals on a silver platter. And he started, you can even take it back to where he's working now and what he's wanting to do, which is college. And college is fine. College is a great resource, and it is a great place to go if you're trying to learn and get better. But if you go to college and you spend 4 years of your life doing what other people expect you to do, and showing that you can follow the rules, you won't get the most out of it. You will have people who go to college with an idea in mind, a goal in mind, a direction, and then at the age of 25, they're flourishing. They are well off, they're independent, and they know what they wanted to do, and now they're living out their life doing just that. I think that is kind of the true evil of this world, is believing, being convinced that survival is living. And I'm sure many people are out there who don't feel like they're surviving. They feel like they're living. Many people out there are eating up these goals one after another that are handed to them because it's easy, instead of going out there and trying to find a meaning, finding a goal. And I don't want to say I subscribe to a certain belief system. I don't believe so much that heaven and hell are separate entities. I think that heaven and hell are here on earth, and you can decide which one you're living in. And I do believe that life has a purpose, and it has meaning if you give it that purpose and meaning. And people who go through and don't set their goals, they will start somewhere naturally, and they will have their hopes and dreams and aspirations, and they will venture forward just a little bit for a few years or so, and then get caught up with everybody else, get caught up in relationships, get caught up in the next promotion, get caught up in vacation. People will lose track of actually setting goals. And the thing about goals is goals are challenges in their most positive form. Challenges are something in life that offers you growth, and it offers you a way to get better and develop. And of course, there will naturally be challenges ahead of you. But what goals offer is almost a controlled environment where you will set a goal. And if you're starting out, and if you have never set goals before, you start a goal that is attainable and you know you can do. Something that is not too far out of your limits. And then you go achieve that goal. And then you set the bar a little higher, and you go do that goal. And through that, through the thought process and through the guidance of someone who is a little wiser and someone who's done what you're doing now, you can find that there is a bigger reason to setting goals. And yes, goals can be hard. And yes, goals can be something that is unappealing. But goals are required in life. You have them no matter what. You're going to be given goals no matter what, either by your own doing or by society. And I would rather make my own goals than have society make goals for me and then say, hey, this is what everyone else is doing, so go do that. There's a book that is out there which I would highly suggest reading, and it is called Outwitting the Devil. And like I said before, I don't necessarily subscribe to a certain religion. I do believe that there is a positive and a negative out there. I do believe there are balancing forces out there. And in this book, the writer interviews the devil, and he is having the devil divulge all of his tricks and secrets to capturing the mentality of people and capturing the mind of people. And what the key thing with that book is introducing the term drifting. And drifting, it's not like a vagabond who's kind of just walking down the road looking for whatever. In the book, drifting is described as someone who permits him or herself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind. A drifter is one who accepts whatever life throws in his way without making a protest or putting up a fight. He doesn't know what he wants from life and spends all of his time getting just that. That is a quote from the book by Napoleon Hill, and that book will definitely make you more aware of the importance of goal setting, and if you don't set goals, how vulnerable you are to being influenced by the world around you. And like I said before, it's not like there is a grand table of fat, rich old men who are planning out your every move and how they can take you down and make you part of the herd and make you part of this machine. But it is people who are drifting, who have fallen to place of leadership. It is people who are drifting who are in control through school, through social media, through Hollywood, or what have you. It is those drifters who are putting out more ways to drift. So be careful of that. And I think with that story, Kevin, did you have anything before I go on to the next segment with the story, did you have anything to dissect or anything that stuck out with that bit?
Just going back, I would say having a goal is a good start. It shows, like, waking up in the morning and you having a goal, you might not complete it immediately, but it sets a foundation of what you have to do and how to get there. Like you said earlier, like a compass and a map. Having a goal is important just in general, just because... let me think.
Oh, you got to think about this. I'm just teasing. I wanted to say something, bounce off something you said, where you wake up in the morning and you have a goal. And a little tip or trick, something that I've learned, is your tomorrow starts tonight. Whatever you're planning on doing tomorrow, you need to write down the night before. And we can have an episode one day on ins and outs of writing out your goals and that such, but real brief, if tomorrow I don't know what I'm doing, whose fault is that? It's mine. And so I spend tomorrow doing nothing. But if tonight I sit down and think about where I want to be in a week or a month or a year or however many months down the line, and I think of how I get there, what do I do tomorrow to get me there? And then back to the map. Where do I want to be? Where do I want to be in half a year? The compass is how you get there, and that compass is something you have to constantly check on. That compass is something you have to constantly look at and make sure you're heading the right direction. And that is best done by sitting down the night before and planning out, okay, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this, and having those goals ready. So when you do wake up, you already know what you want to do. You don't have to spend the time of that day to write that stuff out. I wanted to give a little more advice on what I know people my age do. People who mindlessly self-indulge, people who, we can use the term now, drifting, which I love the term. I'll probably be using that a lot. So if ever you need to know what that is, that's what drifting is. It is not being in control of your own thoughts or minds. It's not taking the time to think. It is having others think for you, and then you do whatever that may be. When you don't have a direction, you will latch on to other directions people have. And if you don't have a direction in life, then whatever Kevin's doing at the time, if I'm his buddy, which is again back to relationships, if I'm his buddy and he goes down a pretty dark path, well, because I'm his friend and I want to be there for him and with him, what he does interests me. And that's kind of the cycle, is I will follow you and be involved with what you're doing, and then now we're kind of set back from everybody else. We are, I don't want to say bums, but directionalists. And I think I don't want to beat a dead horse, but repetition is key. Repetition is something that is pretty important. But I think we can move on to the one of the final segments of this episode. What you need to think about to set an initial goal. I've come up with 3 questions that I asked myself that I really think, if you take the time to think about and write out, they can help you take a step forward in the right direction. And I keep saying this path. I keep saying this voyage and all that jazz, and I wanted to quickly hit that. Wherever you are in life, if you are drifting is not something that is permanent. Drifting is just a mindset that you can have, and it is never ever too late to switch gears and get on another way of thinking and taking control of where you want to be and where you want to go. So, with that said, if you want to take the step forward, and like that song, one foot in front of the other, which I think that's a Christmas movie. If you want to take one step, and if you want to take one step on Voyage's path, then asking where you're at now, asking who you're spending your time with, and asking what is it you're thinking about, and what are you spending your time and energy on. Those main 3 questions are gonna help you decide where you should go. And before we dig into that, I was gonna ask you, Kevin, with where you're at now, who you're surrounding yourself with, and what it is you're thinking, what you're feeding your mind. Do you notice a difference from Kevin's thoughts and habits now versus Kevin's thoughts and habits years ago?
So there was one thing that was going through my head. I was gonna try to find the right time to say it. Whenever I first met Calvin whenever I first met Calvin and rekindled my friendship with Tony, they showed me this video, this inspirational video. This is a small thing that you can do. If you wake up in the morning, make your bed, and then if you're having an awful day, you come home to a made bed. So at least you completed one thing instead of nothing. Yeah, instead of nothing. You successfully completed one thing, is making your bed. My goal for now...
Well, not so much... I wasn't so much asking about your goals, but do you see a difference in who you're surrounding yourself with and where you're at and what you're thinking versus what you were thinking and what you were doing and who you were hanging around? Do you see any thing you can compare?
There's a huge difference.
Okay.
Before rekindling with you, Tony, it was more of I was a drifter, letting people give me ideas of what I should be doing instead of making my own ideas, making my own goals. I was mainly doing what people thought I should be doing.
Which was what? What do you mean?
A lot of people kept thinking...
Was college ever
A lot of people kept saying college is important, but yes, college is important, but what should I be studying? They didn't give me a foundation of what. They didn't help me decide what I
Your
wanted to do.
interests.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't decide what my interests were. I had to decide that for myself, and after rekindling, I helped this. I gained a better understanding of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to go back to school for, what my goals should be and should not be, and what I should not be doing, and what I should be doing to get closer to finishing my goal successfully.
So you're not in school now. Could you
I am not in
divulge
school
as to why not?
Not in school now, just because college is a little bit pricey. But college is never too late for anybody. I would say if you're still not certain of what you're doing or you want to go study, I would say basics is most important. And then during those times when you're doing basics, I would say those are the prime time to try to figure out what you want to do with your life and try to tie in what you're doing now and then what you're going to school for.
Okay. So do you think that because I have a couple friends in college and they're getting the basics out of the way, getting their associates. When it comes to college, that is one way to, like I said before, I'm not against college, but I'm not necessarily thinking that I'm not for the belief that it is required to. I think right now is the era of entrepreneurship. To hit on college real quick, just for another couple minutes. You said you weren't in college because it's kind of expensive and that you don't really know why you'd be in college, right?
Yes.
So, back to why, when you have a goal in mind, if you have a direction of where you're going, how would you say, if you have a direction where you're trying to go in your life and you have that goal, college could be an answer. But before you've understood where you're heading and who you've surrounded yourself with, damn, I lost my train of thought. 1 second. Let's backtrack. Before we go, we can cut the college part real quick. Let's just go back onto those 3 questions. I'm going to backtrack and we'll keep track as to the time. Whenever I was coming up with those 3 questions, where you're at now, who you surround yourself with, and what are you thinking? The main things I was trying to hit on was, if you don't know where you're at, you can't prepare to move on anywhere. If you don't know where you're at, you cannot look at your map and understand, okay, I'm here and I'm trying to get here. I'm at point A and I need to get at point B. And so if you want to equate it to being at war, if you're on the battlefield, if you don't know where you're at, you are in trouble. You are looking for a bad time and you could easily die or get your friends killed or whatnot. And there's a good quote by Benjamin Franklin: if you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. So what I would advise is taking some time to sit and think as to what's going on in your life and why things are happening in your life. Because back to the story, that young man didn't take the time to think what's going on. He was too busy going and moving on with everybody else and what people were saying he should be doing. The next thing is who you're surrounding yourself with. Whenever you surround yourself with people who are good influences, then good will come. If you surround yourself with people who are bad influences, bad will come. That's just basics. We did kind of talk about that already in the last episode, but that is still something pertinent and something you should be thinking on. The last bit is what you're thinking, what you're feeding your mind, what you're spending your time, energy, and attention on. I would say and start that your thoughts will eventually become actions, and your actions will eventually become your habits. And your habits will make your character, and there you can kind of see how the dominoes are falling there with that pattern. But if you take the time to think of how you're acting, I think even Bruce Lee says that your body doesn't know when you're joking. Your body doesn't know that if you're talking bad about yourself, that you don't actually mean it. He says, I'll find the quote one day, but whatever you're saying, if you're saying you're sick or you're saying you're not at your best, your body doesn't know that, and that's why you're spelling that out. You're casting a spell. That's why it's called spelling. Which was when I read that he said that, it kind of got me more interested in what Bruce Lee, his lifestyle is and his mindset. But there's truth to that. What you constantly say and think is what your body is interpreting, what you're subconsciously ingraining into your mind each time you say something negative about yourself or something negative in general. So that is why the importance of what you're thinking should be. That's why what you're thinking should be. You should be aware of what you're thinking, and all that. Be just aware of what you are thinking, and that's going to tie into where you're trying to go. That's going to tie into the goals that you should be setting eventually down the line. What I would recommend for the first question, no, for the second question of who you surround yourself with. I don't want to say old people, because not all old people are super wise, but someone who has experience, a mentor, a teacher, someone who you trust and can learn with. A lot of people now who aren't too involved with their kids, they either aren't involved because they're doing something productive and they have to sacrifice all this time for work to stay afloat, or you have people who aren't involved because they're just lazy or don't understand how they should be bringing a child into this world. So when you look at it and you think, okay, my parents didn't teach me this, and I didn't get a map and compass, I didn't know what I should be doing, so I went and did my own thing like myself, then you can it's easier to cast blame on your parents, but what we're talking about here again is accountability. So what you can do and what you have the opportunity to do is say, okay, that hand was dealt to me. I'm going to do the best with that hand. And I'm going to go find someone. I was lucky enough to find someone that they became my father, which I'm not sure how often that happens, probably very rarely. But I was able to go and find a mentor and ask him questions, and through that we established this relationship that I was able to fall onto in my time of need. And I'm not the only one who has thought this way before. I'm not the only one who has given or trying to give people a resource to better themselves and develop. My father isn't the first person who's done that either. He's the one who helped me develop and question myself and question the reasoning for being alive and what I should do with my life. He's not the first. He's not the last. Nor am I. There are so many others before me. There are so many others before us here that you can surround yourself with. If you can't go find a mentor in your life, if that is just something, I don't know why it would be the case, but even if it is the case where you can't find another human being to directly help you, there are teachings out there. There are books out there. There are positive movies. There is music. There are paintings. There are poems. The list can go on. But it's out there. And it is, if you say, okay, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because if you say, I can't, if you say, I don't know how to, if you say that I was never taught this, well then okay, you can go learn this. You can go understand this. And that's the great thing about the internet now. That's why there are podcasts coming up. That's why it's the era that it is now with the entrepreneur. Is you can go and learn anything for free. Essentially, you can go and learn things that people would never thought possible. You can go achieve things that people never thought possible. So just be aware of who you're blaming and know that, yes, you can blame them. You can blame them for what your parents might have or might not have done. But the fact of the matter is now, the reason why you're probably watching this podcast, you could have been cast out, or you could have been just looking and hoping to find some form of foundation. Now we're trying to change our mentality to get ready for this voyage that we're going on, and this is one of the key first steps, is what direction I want to go in. And if you ask yourself those three questions of where you are now, who you're surrounding yourself with, and what you're thinking, what you're feeding your mind. I think those can be a key to open up your awareness, a key to, how would you say, establishing point A and point B. Point A being what you've done and where you've been, and point B being where you're going and how you're trying to get there. We could easily say that yes, you have to now, if your parents were lacking in the involvement, then yes, now you can simulate that. You can try to find your passion. You can try to find your interests. You can try what you're good at, and bank on that. If you are a master guitarist naturally somehow, then yes, sure, go start a band, do something. But at that same time, if you're trying to chase your passion, you have to stay afloat in this world where money is required. So what I've noticed is people will work, like, let's say McDonald's. If you have a chef who's working at McDonald's because it's a 4-star hire, easy money, easy job, they're not necessarily on the right, they're not thinking ahead. They are thinking about, okay, how do I get the money to go do the things I want to do, to chase that next hit of dopamine, to buy things, to do what I want to do. A better thought process is, okay, I want to be a chef. Maybe I should go get a job at some restaurant hardware store, or something involved in the restaurant business. So whenever you open up your own shop, you will have the connections, you will have the experience of the inner workings beyond culinary. It's thinking ahead of where you're trying to go. And so if you are that chef and you are looking for a job, don't go to McDonald's. You should go to, I don't know of any other, Ace Hardware? No, that's not a restaurant store. Go find a job that is in line with where you're trying to be. And so what you're doing there is you're surrounding yourself with people who have a similar passion. You're surrounding yourself with people who, like the owner, has made a business. You're surrounding yourself with people who are working not just to make a quick dime, but with people who are involved in some way, shape, or form in that business, which all that can relate back to your relationships and who you surround yourself with. And at that time, if those people are thinking about how they themselves can start their own business, if those people are thinking about how they themselves can flourish outside of the 9 to 5, then now you're thinking about that. Now you're involved in that, and you're not stuck thinking about, okay, how do I make the next, how do I pay for gas, or how do I try to afford this next a can of White Claw, or something unproductive, something that is not too relevant. So yes, all that in saying, like that term I used last time, T, time, energy, and attention. If you are surrounding yourself in that environment, then you're spending your time, energy, and attention on the positive, on where you're trying to go. And I would say, because I can't just give you a goal. I can't say do 20 push-ups. I can't say wake up at 6 o'clock. I can't say lose 50 pounds. It is something that I can give you the tools for, but at that same expense, it's up to you at the end of the day to decide where you're heading and to decide what's your first goal. So with that said, I'm going to give you a few of my own initial goals, and hopefully that might influence your own. Whenever I was deciding to walk on this voyage, I had to cut ties with my old friends who weren't serving me. I had to think of my future. I had to look at where I was at and think, okay, where do I want to be? That helped me determine how I get there. I had to begin to reprogram my thoughts and my habits. And as I started to do that, it wasn't just me. It didn't just come in one day. I didn't decide, okay, I need some direction in life, and I woke up with that direction. It was because I found a mentor. It was because I found people who were kind of on the similar path, and I cut those who didn't serve me out of my life. And then I started to read books on bettering yourself. I started to listen to people who are all about bettering yourself. And that is what my world soon became. So that's where, I guess that's all I can say as far as my own initial goals. And that's really all I can offer you. Right now, there are not millions of people watching the show right now. There's not thousands of people asking questions on how they should live their life or what they should do. So I can't honestly give you that answer. What I can say is, if you ask yourself those 3 initial questions: where you're at, who you surround yourself with, and what you're thinking, then you can better understand and prepare yourself to move in a proper direction. And I think that's all I got for today. That's all I have so far. And I wanted to just say that in the next few episodes, we are talking about, again, relationships, friendships, romantic, family, work, and that such, keeping in mind that you will have a goal. And the reason why you need to keep that in mind is relationships can be a hindrance or help. They can help you get that goal, or they can keep you from that goal. So as we go through and we finish up those few episodes, if you haven't set any goals, if you haven't decided where you're trying to go in life, take the time to do that. Find someone who you can ask, maybe a parent, maybe a teacher, maybe anyone that you can, I don't know who you know in your life, but essentially, yeah, anyone who you can bounce ideas off of because they're more experienced than you. I suggest you go do that. I suggest you go find someone who can offer you an answer. So with that said, with social media, you can find us at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and we have our own website, voyagerspath.us. You can email. Our email should be right below. Trying to get, it's not going to work. Yeah, right there under the table. And we will be. Let's see. Nope, that's all I have to say on that. Good deal. Okay. Ref 1. We did it though. Cheers.